the drinks taste different on a Wednesday. I hope we're not on. We are.
Sorry, Mayor.
You mean the water?
The water,
That's what I assume.
colored water.
Great timing.
I didn't even listen to you.
So Andrew's gonna give us
I was like in that little
a world of.
no, you're right.
There's a light on here. You can look for that.
Okay.
I can help facilitate. that
Okay.
if you need me to.
Yeah. I got 4:59, so I got another minute.
You had a check in here that I turned sideways, so you didn't sign it.
Okay.
Chelsea, I took it out.
Okay, great, never mind.
We need a motion in a second on this, don't we? Or we just bring it to order and turn it over?
Turn it over, yeah. You can do all the way, right? To adjourn at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, it's taking a long time for that minute. Okay, it's 5 o'clock. We're going to bring our August 25th work session to order. We have just one item on the agenda, the CIWW purchase capacity discussion, and we're going to turn it over to Andrew.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? Are we all good? Today we're going to be discussing the topic of purchasing more water capacity in the CIWW. As our city grows, our demand for water capacity also grows. Future projections show that we'll exceed our current capacity limits in 2038. We only have 2 opportunities to increase that limit between now and then that will come online by 2038. That is the 2032 Grimes plant and the 2035 Saylorville. That might actually be after 2035, it might be up to 2040. They're not quite sure there. The goal for today is kind of just to have an open discussion, to educate you guys on what's going on and to answer any of the questions that come up. This is our max capacity timeline. Currently, we're set at 1.681 millions of gallons per day. We have the opportunity to buy additional capacity in FY26. In FY28, Saylorville Phase 1 will come online. We've already committed to that, and that will increase our capacity to 1.855 millions of gallons a day. In the future, at some point not yet decided, we'll have an opportunity to buy into Saylorville Phase 2. And then in FY30 to 32, Grimes will come online, and that will increase our capacity to whatever we decide today. And then Saylorville Phase 2 is expected to come online between 2035 and 2040. In front of you, sorry, keep stepping away. In front of you is a water capacity projections graph. This was prepared by PFM. You can see the green line is the actual max day for the last 5 years, and then the black is the projected line, with the red is our capacity, and the dotted red is the buffer. So you can see that we go over our max capacity in 2038, and we exceed the buffer in 2032. This is a 15% buffer. It kind of just is there to deal with any unusual events, I would say. For example, in 2024, we had our max capacity was 0.9. In 2019, it was 1.3, so it can fluctuate quite a lot, and you kind of have to build that into your plan, I guess. I think that's all I had on that one. The cost of capacity, it's estimated. This is just an estimation. This is I got updated numbers today, so it's always changing. It's estimated to be 19.88 per million gallons daily of capacity purchased. Payments on the Grimes expansion will start in FY27. It's a construction loan, so, or it's a loan that's a draw loan, so as the construction increases and those construction costs increase, I should say, the loan repayments will increase. So we'll start off with quite a low repayment in 27, but expect to be making that full payment in FY33. I've heard the next round's going to be more expensive, so if we don't buy in this round, Saylorville Phase 2, I've heard, is going to be even more expensive. PFM currently project our water rates to increase 8% per year up until FY30, so any additional increase in capacity we purchase will be an additional rate increase on top of that. You can see the graph down below there. We're predicting an 8% increase if we purchase 0.1 millions of gallons in extra capacity, or a 15% in FY33 this is, if we purchase 0.2. So it's not cheap. Make sure. There is also a resilience fee, they call it, built in. So even if we don't purchase any capacity, there's a 9% resilience fee that we'll have to pay, kind of split between all of the members, and that's just part of the agreement, I would say. Potential penalties. Rob, I know you'd asked about this. If we go over, what are the penalties? So trying to just answer that one for you. If we go over, CIWW is not obligated to pay providers water. That's unlikely, I would say. They don't know we've gone over until after the fact, so I'm not sure how that works out in play. If we go over capacity more than 10 days in a calendar year, then whatever we go over our capacity, we'll have to then purchase at the next round of purchasing. If we go over more than 3 days in a calendar year, then we will get an excess charge. The excess charge is the annual debt service of that excess capacity. So say if we go over 100,000 gallons, we just have to pay the debt service on that 100,000 gallons. So it's exactly the same amount of what we would pay if we purchased it, but it's rent instead of going towards our debt, if that makes sense. How we can help, instead of just always buying more capacity, how can we help reduce our water usage? So we've got shave the peaks, combat lost water, and reduce irrigation. Shaving the peaks refers to using water storage to reduce short-term spikes in water demand so that pumpage does not exceed our maximum capacity. Typically, we see those events last from 1 to 7 days, and keeping the old water tower would help with this strategy. So as you can see, we have the water tower there, is the blue line, and that's at 1.8, so that's the 1.5 new water tower and the $300,000 gallon old water tower. And the usage and the pumpage, or the usage is the orange line and the pumpage is the green. And as the demand is below the water tower line, they're always the same. The usage and the pumpage is always the same until you go past the water tower line, and that's when you're using the water tower reserves to kind of keep that pumpage down. The pumpage is what capacity is based off. So if the usage is 2 million and the water tower's got 1.8, then we can, or our capacity is 1.85, I think it is. And we can use that water tower to kind of, I'm not explaining that very well, but you can kind of shave the peak by using the water tower. That kind of goes down as the usage goes up, but the pumpage remains under that capacity. I think that's what I was trying to say.
Fill it up on slow days.
Yeah. That's, and because they only last 1 to 7 days, this is an example from 2023 was the peak event of 2023, the highest one. And we've kind of just used those numbers in 2042, timesing them out. And yeah, it gives it time to refill before the next peak event. So it's an effective strategy. Reduce lost water. Lost water is unaccounted for water, I would say. So it's whatever is pumped versus whatever we metered for and unmetered. So if it's hydrant flushings, that's unmetered water, but we know about it. So the difference there is lost water. We don't know where it's gone. Our current lost water is 28%. PFM typically sees around 15 to 20% in surrounding cities, though noted 30 to 40% is not uncommon, and in rural cities, it can be as much as 50%. So obviously we want to lower that, we want to change that. So what we've done so far is reviewed data, calibrated the meter at the plant, hired a leak detection expert and repaired leaks he found. And we're tracking unmetered usage such as the hydrant flushing, firefighter training and stuff like that can add to your lost water. So it's just tracking those so we know what it is. What we'd like to do moving forward is to continue to review meter reads, consider an external water audit. I'm not an expert and, I'm kind of exhausted. I think me and Mike have exhausted our efforts, and it would be helpful to have maybe an external party come and help us out there. Consider purchasing fixed AMI gateways. They kind of track your meter reads hourly. Right now, we have to drive around once a month to get out reads, so this would track them hourly. So it would help for leaks in a house. It would help kind of show no flow days where people maybe take a water meter out for a few days to reduce that usage. And with that sort of stuff, we'd also like to put in water meters during construction phase. Right now, we put in water meters at the end of construction as the sod's going down. So any water previously is not metered. Reduce irrigation. This is a controversial topic, I'm sure. Irrigation is a major contributor to the maximum gallons per day. We went from averaging over 800,000 gallons a day in May before the CIWW ban to averaging 575,000 gallons a day after the ban, which is a 38% drop. Typically weather causes those peak events, which is related to irrigation. I have some other notes here. So the graph on the left side shows daily water meets. So Randy takes a daily water read, and this is the daily water reads from June 2024 to July 25. You can see there that in the winter months, you've got much lower usage to those summer months. So irrigation is a major factor in those peak events. And we have to pay for water capacity. So if we use it 10 days a year or 365 days, we have to pay for that capacity. So irrigation's very expensive is what I'm trying to put across to you. So how can we reduce that irrigation? People still have to water their yards, people wash cars. So it's really driving home alternate watering schedules. Quite often we'll see a 200 to 300,000 gallon change each day. So if we better schedule our irrigation, we could see that kind of even out maybe. Stepped irrigation rates. I know there's a few other surrounding cities that kind of, if you use over 5,000 gallons, you pay more than if you pay under 5,000 gallons. So kind of that's an option, or we can improve our soil restoration program. That is a program where we give people money to improve their soil, which should lead to less watering if you've got better soil, better roots, more effective against a drought. Just some ways, again, open to suggestions on how we can reduce that as well. Utility rates, this is a little table on how we stack up against the rest of the Des Moines area. We're number one, as in not the right number one, we're the worst, most expensive, not the worst, for your average home utility bill. So that's sewer, water, storm sewer, and irrigation based off a 4,100 gallon a month house. And we're number 3 for water alone. So we're already high. So I don't want to purchase more capacity for the sake of it, for just to be a little bit safe or whatnot. So we're recommending to purchase 0.1 additional gallons. And then that's just to, due to a number of uncertainties and the desire for future growth, we think 0.1 should help us achieve those goals. We also recommend exploring more ways we can reduce it internally through shaving the peaks, reducing lost water, and reducing irrigation. Do you have any questions? There's a lot of information.
Council?
Do we know when we can expect to begin the purchase process for Saylorville Phase 2?
No. Sorry, I did ask that. I didn't get a clear answer.
Do we know what kind of expansion Saylorville Phase 2 will be?
Like how many gallons?
How many gallons? Are they going to dig wells? Is this going to be surface water treatment? What are they expecting to do?
Is it 25, Mike? Do you know?
That's what they're looking at, yeah.
Yeah.
So the Saylorville train, they will have a combination of wells, but they're taking it from the alluvial waters from the river basin outside the soils and gravels. So it'll be horizontal wells, if you will. That's how they're gonna collect it in that Des Moines River basin. So that's what it'll be. That's what they're doing now with the existing treatment plant.
So they're going to expand and keep doing the horizontal wells.
That is correct. Yes. They are looking at purchasing, and I'm not sure if they've purchased or not. I don't know if you know that or not, but adjacent land down there where the Saylorville treatment plant is now, because that's fast being developed, and they wanted to try to get that last piece before it's gone. So I know they're working on it.
All right.
So I have a couple questions just to educate myself. So Andrew, did you mention that on new construction, the water's not metered until right towards the end? Is that
Correct. Well, it's built into our hookup fees currently, I believe. We charge what we estimate as part of a hookup fee, but we don't meter it, so that is all technically lost water when we're running our reports. So it might not be a lot of water, it might be a lot of water, but we don't know because it's unmetered. So just put in a meter on it and then we can put that one to bed.
My other question is, can you, again, education on my end, what are some of the contributing factors for us being the wrong number one on the utility rates?
Or was it distance, would you say, for like the sewer?
Yeah, so again, Mike, so our utility rates being so high with water, right, and sewer and everything, what are some of the contributing factors to that? Why we're so high compared to all these other towns?
And I can chime in too,
Okay.
but the biggest contributor is the Rock Creek trunk sewer project that the city constructed nearly a decade ago.
Okay.
So it was a $17 million project. We constructed it with the city of Ankeny as well as Polk County. Polk County took on the debt and we make payments to Polk County. Our annual debt service payment for that Rock Creek trunk sewer is nearly $600,000 a year. So it's the largest check the city writes every year is for that one payment. But just to give you some context, the water tower project was about a $7 to $8 million project. That Rock Creek trunk sewer was 17 million back in 2008, I think is when it was constructed. Trunk sewer projects are expensive, but it was a long distance to get that trunk sewer up to Polk City. So that is the main reason why we're expensive. If you take that plus what we pay the WRA annually for treatment cost, you're looking at, that's over $1 million of the city's budget every year with those two payments. So the debt for the Rock Creek trunk sewer and then what we pay the WRA for treatment of the sanitary sewer system is close to $1.2 million.
Okay.
So I would say if you look at the utility rates, the availability, the $21, that's why that is so high, is a lot of that is the rock sewer trunk debt.
How many years is that?
It goes through 2042. So it's a 25-year loan, and we will not pay it off until 2042.
I thank you for that education because I had some new residents that moved in that wanted to know why our rates were so high. So I can educate them. Thanks.
And I'll editorialize a little bit. So we had to play catch up with the rates. We were not accurately, or we ran a deficit in water and sewer, or at least sewer. I wasn't around when we joined Rock Creek, but we had significant local option sales tax money that were coming in. So to catch up and adding some of these fees versus, or adding some of the charges versus the rate fees was a process. And so I think that catch-up factor is a little bit relevant, though obviously we have caught up and then some. Usage has been a big issue. We got heavily penalized in Des Moines Waterworks because, correct me if I'm wrong, right? 1 day over versus the, 10 here, you got penalized for immediately, and we were kind of letting it go. So I think that folks have been responsive, but this sheet here, I think, is a big factor in our decision too. I don't want to change the topic from ask your other questions, and I'll
No,
take
go
my
ahead.
turn. But
Go ahead.
first thing is, so the decision is, do we buy capacity, yes or no, and then how much?
Yes.
Okay, so your recommendation is yes to purchase, but at essentially the minimal amount. And maybe it was on here, but is there a scale of what the actual costs are for that purchase? So if you're recommending 0.1 MGD, what is the cost of that?
1988.
So it's 1.988, and then the annual payment would be around 190,000.
Okay, so are the only two options no, 0.1 or 0.2?
You could do 0.5, you can do what, this is a discussion.
Okay,
Be 0. I will say that we've already given minimum and maximum numbers to them. I think we can change those. They were just preliminary, and they're already oversubscribed. In terms of what they have available, I think it's around 15, and cities have already asked for a minimum of 19. So there may not be enough capacity if you want more. But yeah.
I get the ambiguity, and I'll probably be guilty of it, but I'll try and ask questions that I know you don't have the answers to given here, but, and that's, so I think a middle of the road recommendation is a fair one. What I'm struggling with, typically I would default to what is in our long-term interest, and not knowing when the next opportunity is, my default answer would be yes. The reason that I'm hedging here, could you go back to the projected usage, is this, if you look at it, the green is not a straight line, but the black is. And so I understand using that, because what else can you do other than conservatively or best guess going forward? But my struggle is, and you touched on this, well, actually, my struggle is the rate adjustments that we've made and where we're at now. It's hard for me to reconcile the long-term interest, which purchasing capacity probably is, versus the time horizon to which we're associating that cost. If we were to buy, you could make an argument, if we were to buy more capacity now, we're investing in a generation's future on the backs of folks now. And that's probably a prudent thing to do in more cases than not. The reason that I'm struggling here is the history that I already talked about, but your point on the uncertainty is off the charts, and in my opinion, in this case, I mean, everything's, topsy-turvy now, it seems like in this world, but water more than about anything that affects municipalities, you could argue, agriculture and data centers are the boogeyman for anything that's going wrong. And sometimes they're good data, sometimes there's not supporting that. And so I think you're gonna see a lot of changes, and it is impossible to know now whether this capacity will be a prudent investment or not. That's not giving you an answer that you're looking for. I get it. I'm just kind of explaining where I'm maybe a slight lean to pass now, given all those questions, but I don't know that logic is sound, so.
Do we have a horizon for when we need to make this decision by?
No. There's a lot of uncertainties. I don't believe so, right, Chelsea?
No.
Yeah.
They wanted they wanted a preliminary answer from us in
July
July. We told them we were interested, but we did not want to commit to 100,000 extra gallons.
And is it true that the opportunity to buy now is because Grimes is coming on board with Central Iowa Waterworks?
I think that is the easiest expansion project, so that's why they're doing that one first.
Okay, so let me ask it a different way. Is the expansion project the reason why we're getting the opportunity to buy more?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So, and then projecting the next one, Saylorville 2, whatever that was, that's the next opportunity,
Yes.
which is scheduled again 2030 something.
Yeah, the hard thing about the Saylorville expansion is they have a estimated timeline. It's no different than when we do our capital improvement planning process, where things might change or shift and that project might get pushed off. I
Yeah.
think that's where the concern is if it doesn't happen when they say it's gonna happen in 2035, you're gambling a little bit, it feels like.
Yeah.
So are we essentially locking in the rates now with the, so to speak, if we buy that additional capacity?
So to Rob's point about we're taking on that cost now, it's the way they have the repayments, it's because it's a draw loan, you're only paying back what you draw. So as construction goes on, we pay more. So in 2027, they have as a debt service of $1,500. It's not a lot of money. And then by the time you get to 2033, that's when you're paying that 190,000. So that's when you'll see the full rate increase.
Mandy?
Anything?
No, it's just so unknown, and like I said, to plan for the future with so many unknowns, but again, the biggest unknown is when we're going to have the opportunity again. So I would be inclined to go for it at the recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, in the back of my mind, as we know the type of rooftops that are getting built in our community, more and more green yards and demand for water is just gonna continue to rise, right? I don't see our demand dwindling at all.
Well, it did from 23 to 24. And from 19 to 21. I'm not refuting your point, or I'm not trying to be snarky either. I just, that's what I struggle with, is because I go back to one of the conversations we had around water, and I talked to Mike afterwards. There seems to be more flexibility with Central Iowa Waterworks and the management and the communication than there ever was with Des Moines Waterworks. It's take it or leave it. So we do have a seat at the table and can talk to over the next, what is it, 38, so, 13 years with more data. Is that a straight line as we get closer to it? When we get concerns, can we push or adjust on some of the opportunities? And then I think an investment here is warranted regardless. The piece that I'm struggling with, do we make it towards capacity, or do we do more of the things being on the fire department, I didn't know that was all unmetered water. Just knowing what that is probably makes sense. I mean, I know meters aren't cheap, but we can meter everything. 28% of lost or unaccounted for or whatever you referred to it as is a lot. And if we can better have that number, I think we've seen good results from the irrigation communication. This kind of changes my perspective on changing the irrigation rates, which I was for coming back on that, but prior to this conversation, and now maybe that's not a great idea, but if we can invest in things that we can control in-house, maybe not 1.9 million, but that's kind of the way that I'm leading, which again, I'm not saying that as a good opinion, but.
So is it a correct assumption that 13 years from now, or even 5 years from now, costs are gonna be higher, right?
Yeah.
So costs are not gonna come down. So even if we buy, again, I hear both sides to this, but I keep coming back to, personally, I feel like our water usage is gonna go up, and if we could, I equate it to buying Google when they IPO'd for $100 a share, right? If we could buy it now, and be on the winning side later, I guess that's.
Yeah, I see what you're thinking. I would equate it more to a mortgage, and you can buy points, which if you're gonna, buy a cheaper rate and have that mortgage for a long time, it may make sense. But we're not buying a company and hoping the stock goes up. We're paying capacity that we know we won't need for, adjust this chart, and it's still 10 years out, maybe 13, maybe longer. So that's where it's, there's no dividend, and I know we're not paying anything till 27 or whenever it is, and it's a marginal cost that goes up from there. So that, I did miss that. Thank you for pointing that out, whoever did. But that's where I kind of struggle is, you can buy down points on a mortgage, rates go down, and you end up refinancing it a year later, and you're out that money that you paid.
So I'll try to make this my last question. So when PFM did this, and I don't know if there's any science behind it, but when they did the projection, I mean, is that just one of these? Or is there data that they go off of? I mean, anticipated growth to our city, I mean, stuff like that.
Yeah, so they do a peak ratio. So they work out your average peak ratio first, and then they use population to figure out where they expect you to be on that peak. But they're only as good as the population numbers they're given, which is from our 2040 comp plan. It's only as good as, as you can see, Rob was saying it was 0.9 in 2024, it was 1.3 in 2019. It's not a perfect science, I would say. But yeah, it's based off a peak ratio and your population. So it's how good you think those numbers are.
Jeff, anything?
I think ultimately purchasing it's the way to go, but I think we still need a little more data to understand, well, if we miss this first opportunity, what could that look like if we start hitting, those exceeding days?
So this is a shave the peak. Again, nothing's perfect science, but this on the shave the peaks, this is 2042. So it's showing our peak usage is now at 2.1 million gallons. So it's well above our 1.855, but we're able to use that water tower to kind of stay under our 1.855. So now that's if shave the peak
The
works.
old water tower.
No, both of them.
But that's the other consideration too, is
Yeah.
the upkeep of the old water tower. How long we think we're gonna be able to use it? So there are those factors to take in consideration too over the next, 13 years.
That is, so what's our capacity in the old water tower,
300,000,
and what's the new one?
1.5.
Okay, so we have, what is that? I can't even do basic math. 5 times the capacity.
Yeah.
The first day of the new water tower.
Yep.
To shave the peaks than we ever had with the old water tower.
Right.
And that's just, that's assuming that you suck it dry, which you can't. But so we can better manage, and I know Mike and Randy did this in years past when we first started digging into this, is, you know, the peaks were just seen as, and I'm not faulting anybody, maybe I've got this wrong, but it just was what it was. We weren't trying to manage it, and then Mike and Randy got, and others, Public Works got involved, and we helped with it, right? Well, now we can do that 5X when the water tower's done. So that's where, again, I'm pushing on this more than it sounds like I've made my decision and I haven't, but I do want to kick the tires on the things that we, you know, identifying leakage, shaving the peaks, some of these other things. So
I would add to that I think we should look into some type of communications campaign that we could run through the city, focused on our young people, to let them know how much water we waste and how much you could save in different areas. So
I
you can
agree
accomplish
for
a
sure.
lot doing that,
Yeah.
or some, anyway. So Nick, did you have anything else?
I'm a little on the fence here too. I don't know. In the back of my mind, I worry about us not having enough capacity, and I worry about us getting to the point where even that extra 100,000 gallons isn't enough capacity. But again, we don't really have enough data at this point to know where we're going. I think it's probably prudent to start looking at going after this additional lower capacity rate.
Okay, so let's give these guys some guidance here, okay? So let's just start. Rob, any last guidance for them? Yes, no? We don't have to start with you.
no, I mean, no, but not a, no in pencil, is that?
Jeff?
I would say I'm a yes in pencil.
Okay.
I'm gonna steal from
Jeff?
Yes, but I still think we need more data to support the yes, to understand what our actual overages could be. We need some scenarios.
Okay.
And what what the average user could actually be impacted by month to month with, you know, the surcharges.
Mandy?
We're all giving our own flair to the answers. Yes, plus the other things. Again, like to your point, is this enough? I don't know, but we can't say, woohoo, we got this extra capacity and back off. I think we have started educating people, but I think that's going to be a continual thing. We heard this summer how much people didn't like to be told they can't water their lawn. So again, constantly educating about how you can reduce water loss, how we can effectively work together to water on the days you're supposed to. And I just think that's going to be a constant thing, you know, year after year that we'll have to do is continue educating people and driving that behavior.
And so you're saying what?
I said yes, plus the communication, the shaving the you know, the other pieces that they mentioned as well.
All right. Nick?
One last thing occurs to me. If we do end up in a situation where we've got extra capacity, what does it look like, our ability to sell that capacity off?
I think you can. It's different under this model than it used to be with Des Moines Water Works, but I know that there is the ability to do that.
Okay.
So we'd want to take a look at that and get some additional information.
So if you go over and you pay the excess surcharge, that goes to the other members. So it's split by percentage that you own. So say you own 10 million of the 140 that they have, you'd get whatever that percentage is.
But if we find ourselves in the late 2030s and we're still using 1.7 million gallons.
If
at that
no
point in
one's going
time,
over, then I don't believe you get anything. It's only if people go over.
do we have the ability to sell our
Sell that
capacity,
back.
say to Des Moines or Ankeny or Altoona if they join in it, whoever wants it? That was the question I
I
had.
know you can do that because you used to be able to do that under the Des Moines Water Works model, and that was a frequently brought up concern amongst the member communities that thought that they might be in that position. So I do know, yes, I just don't know what that process looks like.
bought capacity
We bought capacity that way.
6 years ago.
2012.
2018.
Well, we bought it a couple times in the past 20 years.
Every time, one of my comments is, I've been kind of silent listening to you folks here, but from an operator standpoint, we have always purchased when it's been available. It has always made sense to us. I'm not saying it does this time, but I still think it does this time as well. I'm at the aspect of how much. You know, I'm saying the 100 is probably a low side. So that's my opinion, is we've bought, every time in history we've had a chance, we've purchased it, and it's made sense every time. The second thing, from an operator standpoint, and these folks have heard me say it in the room before, Randy and I have had two situations, one really bad one, in a drought situation where we all had our treatment plant. And when you're sitting there as an operator and you don't have enough water, that makes a big impression in your career. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to you're doing the same thing we're sitting here doing too. How much do we need? But don't buy too much, you know, that doesn't make sense either, but there's that fine line when you're estimating out there. That's why my opinion is something is needed. We're gonna try to get to the how much. And we kind of all said the $100,000 is a good target for right now to do that. Knowing that the next option is 13 or more years away in the Saylorville treatment plant. You hate to miss an opportunity. And anyway, that's my 2 cents today, but I'd like to see more what we come up with too, what they're asking for.
Okay. So,
So that was a yes.
all right. So I think we've got enough yeses to move forward with this and with some more information. And you've heard council members suggest that they need more information in different areas. So there you go.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with needed more information. I think when we don't have all the answers, that's kind of where we hedged our bet with the 0.1 between the two of the options. But yeah, cool.
Anything else from you, Mike? Anything else from you, Chelsea?
Jeff, I wanted to let you know I misspoke. It was a 30-year loan that we took out for the Rock Creek trunk sewer. So, sorry, I said 25 earlier.
That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's the only item that we have, so I guess I'll ask for a motion and a second to adjourn, please.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.